You are not who you think you are, not really, and even more disturbingly the person you could be. That individual, that potential, that latent force is sitting dormant, screaming silently beneath the surface of your current personality structure. Now, listen carefully, because after this, your brain will never be the same. Every single thought you allow to enter your mind, every idea you engage with restructures the very neural architecture that defines how you see the world. This isn't metaphorical, this is biological fact. Your brain is a plastic, dynamic system, subject to change and reconfiguration through experience, responsibility, suffering, and yes, truth. The problem is, you've been lied to. Repeatedly, you've been told that you are fixed, that your intelligence is static, that your trauma defines you. But that is ideological possession, not science. The truth is, you are chaos and order, endlessly unfolding. You are potential itself, and you are blind to how profound that is. Now consider this. When you expose yourself to truth, not convenience, not comfort, but raw, unfiltered truth, you destabilize your current identity. You rip apart the walls of the psychic structure you've built to keep chaos at bay. It's terrifying, but it's necessary. That's why the logo's the word, the truth has the power to save, and it's also why it hurts. Because when you really hear something true, it slices through you, it annihilates the false parts of you, and that's the price of rebirth. That's transformation, and your brain rewires accordingly. Think about that for a moment. Every conversation you avoid, every truth you deny, every responsibility you refuse, they're carving your soul into a shape you never intended. And they're carving your brain, to neuron by neuron, connection by connection, into the architecture of cowardice. But here's the hope. Every courageous act, every honest sentence, every disciplined decision, it rebuilds you, not just spiritually, neurologically. You become someone else, someone better. So I'll leave you with this, and don't forget it. Your brain is listening to you. Constantly, every time you tell yourself you're not enough, it believes you. Every time you rise despite fear, it reorganizes itself to support you. You are not a finished product, you are a process. You are a flame flickering between chaos and order, and when you truly decide to aim upward, to voluntarily shoulder the heaviest burden you can carry, to confront the dragon and rescue your father from the belly of the beast, your brain will never be the same. So stand up straight, speak the truth, carry your damn load, and become who you could be, because nothing, absolutely nothing, will change your life more than realizing that you are not yet who you could become. Here are 6 important key points from the speech. Your brain will never be the same after this one. Your identity is malleable, not fixed. Who you are is not a static entity. Your identity is constantly shaped by the thoughts you entertain, the actions you take, and the truths you confront biologically and psychologically. You are not a fixed, immovable object. Though it might feel like your personality, intelligence, or emotional patterns are hardwired and permanent, the reality is that your identity is fluid, a living, breathing construction shaped by every thought you think, every emotion you feel, and every action you take. The brain is not a static machine. It's a dynamic, adaptive system constantly responding to your environment, choices, and internal dialogue. This means that who you are today is not who you must be tomorrow. Most people unknowingly live inside a self-imposed box. They adopt labels: I'm anxious, I'm not good at math, I can't handle stress, and so on. These statements aren't just psychological, they're biological commands. When repeated often enough, they influence your brain's wiring, reinforcing certain patterns and behaviors. The tragedy is that people mistake these learned behaviors for permanent traits. They mistake current limitations for lifelong definitions. But transformation is always possible. Your brain has an astonishing capacity for change, a phenomenon known as neuroplasticity. If you begin to act differently, to think differently, and to voluntarily confront challenges rather than flee from them, your brain begins to change in structure and function. You literally become someone else, someone more capable, more resilient, more attuned to reality. This realization is both liberating and terrifying. Liberating because it means you aren't trapped by your past, terrifying because it puts the responsibility back on you. You can't blame your genetics, your upbringing, or your circumstances forever. You are not merely a victim of what has happened to you, you are also the author of what comes next. If you confront that truth honestly, your entire sense of self can begin to shift, and once you see that clearly, your brain and your life will never be the same. 2. The brain is rewired by experience and truth every time you face discomfort, seek truth, or accept responsibility. Your brain literally rewires itself. Neuroplasticity means you are physically transformed by your moral and intellectual choices. Your brain is not a rigid organ. It's alive, constantly changing, adapting, and reshaping itself based on what you experience, think, and do. Every time you encounter a challenge, learn something new, or face something difficult, your brain responds by rewiring its internal pathways. This is not a vague philosophical concept. It's a scientific reality called neuroplasticity. The connections between your neurons are not permanent. They strengthen or weaken depending on how you use them. This means your habits, your mindset, your reactions, even your values are being sculpted by the way you live your life. When you expose yourself to truth, especially truth that's difficult to hear, it destabilizes the current structure of your brain. It confronts the assumptions, routines, and defense mechanisms you've built over time, and that's uncomfortable because it requires change. But that change is what allows you to grow. Truth, especially painful truth, acts like a chisel, breaking away the unnecessary or false layers of who you think you are so that something stronger can emerge in their place. On the other hand, when you refuse to confront reality, your brain adapts to avoidance. It learns to bypass discomfort, reinforcing the habit of running instead of facing. Over time, this creates a neurological framework rooted in fear and passivity. But if you choose instead to face the truth, to accept responsibility, to acknowledge where you've fallen short, and to seek improvement, your brain adapts in the opposite direction. It becomes a tool for courage, for strength, for integrity. Every decision you make, every thought you entertain, is shaping the very structure of your mind. Your brain is listening to how you live, and it becomes the instrument of the person you are becoming. 3. Truth is destructive and liberating. Raw, unfiltered truth disrupts your current world. It dismantles false narratives, often painfully, but this destruction is necessary for genuine transformation and growth. Truth has the power to change you, but not in a gentle or comfortable way. When you're truly confronted by something honest, something real, it doesn't simply inform you, it cuts you. It exposes the parts of you that are weak, mistaken, or dishonest. And that exposure hurts. It destabilizes the version of yourself that you've carefully constructed, often over years, to avoid pain, responsibility, or failure. But that discomfort is not a sign that something is wrong. It's evidence that something inside you is shifting, and that's exactly what transformation demands. Most people instinctively avoid this kind of truth because it threatens the stability of their identity. They'd rather cling to comforting lies or half-truths than endure the pain of seeing themselves clearly. But what they don't realize is that truth, while destructive in the short term, is redemptive in the long term. It tears down only what needs to be rebuilt. It destroys illusions, not potential. When you allow truth to do its work, you invite chaos temporarily, but in doing so, you make space for something deeper and more authentic to take root. The reason truth is so powerful is because it forces integration. It compels you to reconcile your beliefs with your behavior, your ideals with your actions. That process is brutal, but necessary. Without it, you remain fractured, conflicted, and stagnant. Real truth demands a death of the old self so that something stronger, more honest, and more capable can be born. So, when you hear something that unsettles you, don't turn away, pay attention. That feeling, that discomfort, is the signal that something real is happening. And if you stay with it, if you let it reshape you, your brain and your life will never be the same, for avoidance breeds weakness. Avoidance is not harmless. Every time you dodge a difficult conversation, suppress a painful memory, or look away from something you know you should face, you teach your brain to retreat instead of confront. That might bring temporary relief, but over time it carves a path of weakness into your neural circuitry. Your brain begins to favor comfort over courage, safety over truth, and denial over growth. What you avoid doesn't go away, it waits. It grows in the dark corners of your psyche, gaining strength while you become smaller in its presence. Avoidance may feel protective, even rational. After all, who willingly walks into pain? But here's the paradox. Every avoided truth becomes a tyrant. You start to structure your life around what you're unwilling to face. Your choices narrow, your confidence erodes, the weight of unspoken fears and unacknowledged responsibilities starts to define you, whether you admit it or not. In the name of comfort, you slowly build a psychological cage, and with each act of avoidance, you reinforce the bars. Your brain learns from your behavior. If you consistently back down from hard moments, it literally becomes more efficient at avoiding. It strengthens the neural pathways associated with withdrawal and fear. Over time, it turns you into someone who no longer believes they can stand up, someone who forgets how. This isn't just psychological decay, it's biological conditioning, but the opposite is also true. Face what you fear, and your brain learns strength. Speak the truth despite the tremble in your voice, and your brain wires itself for courage. Avoidance is not neutral, it's training. And if you continue to avoid, you're not just escaping discomfort, you're building a self that cannot bear reality. That is a high price to pay for temporary peace. 5. Courage and responsibility rebuild you when you avoid hard conversations, deny responsibility, or reject truth. You carve a psychological and neurological structure of cowardice. Avoidance doesn't protect you, it weakens you. Avoidance is not harmless. Every time you dodge a difficult conversation, suppress a painful memory, or look away from something you know you should face, you teach your brain to retreat instead of confront. That might bring temporary relief, but over time it carves a path of weakness into your neural circuitry. Your brain begins to favor comfort over courage, safety over truth, and denial over growth. What you avoid doesn't go away, it waits. It grows in the dark corners of your psyche, gaining strength while you become smaller in its presence. Avoidance may feel protective, even rational. After all, who willingly walks into pain? But here's the paradox. Every avoided truth becomes a tyrant. You start to structure your life around what you're unwilling to face. Your choices narrow, your confidence erodes. The weight of unspoken fears and unacknowledged responsibilities starts to define you, whether you admit it or not. In the name of comfort, you slowly build a psychological cage, and with each act of avoidance, you reinforce the bars. Your brain learns from your behavior. If you consistently back down from hard moments, it literally becomes more efficient at avoiding. It strengthens the neural pathways associated with withdrawal and fear. Over time, it turns you into someone who no longer believes they can stand up, someone who forgets how. This isn't just psychological decay, it's biological conditioning. But the opposite is also true. Face what you fear, and your brain learns strength. Speak the truth despite the tremble in your voice, and your brain wires itself for courage. Avoidance is not neutral, it's training. And if you continue to avoid, you're not just escaping discomfort, you're building a self that cannot bear reality. That is a high price to pay for temporary peace. Courage and responsibility are not just virtues, they are tools for rewiring your brain. Every time you voluntarily face something difficult, your brain adapts. It registers that you are capable of handling discomfort, uncertainty, and fear, and it builds new neural pathways that support resilience and competence. This is not abstract theory. It's grounded in neuroscience. When you confront what you would rather avoid, you send a message to your nervous system: I can do hard things. Over time, your brain internalizes that message and transforms you into someone who truly can. Responsibility works the same way. When you take on a burden not because you're forced to, but because you choose to, your brain reorganizes itself around the challenge. It begins to prioritize order, discipline, and long-term thinking. You literally become more structurally suited to carry the weight of your own life, and perhaps even the lives of others. Responsibility teaches your brain to focus, to stabilize, and to endure, and the more you do it, the more natural it becomes. This kind of change doesn't happen all at once. It happens decision by decision when you choose honesty over avoidance, duty over apathy, and meaning over comfort. Every one of those choices is like a hammer stroke shaping the architecture of your character. Your courage lays down the foundation. Your responsibility builds the walls. Eventually, you become someone you barely recognize, not because you've betrayed who you are, but because you've finally started to become who you could be. Courage and responsibility are not easy paths. They demand sacrifice, but in return, they offer something no shortcut ever will: the transformation of your brain into a vessel strong enough to carry a meaningful life. That kind of change is real, and it lasts. 6. You are a process, not a product you are always becoming. Your future self is shaped by your present decisions. When you choose growth over comfort and truth over denial, you initiate a lifelong process of meaningful transformation. You are not a finished product. No matter how old you are, how much you've accomplished, or how deeply you've suffered, you are still becoming. You are a process, a constantly evolving system of thought, emotion, and action that responds to the world in real time. This means your future self is not predetermined. It is shaped by the decisions you make today. Every choice, no matter how small, nudges you in a direction toward strength or weakness, honesty or delusion, growth or stagnation. Most people live as though they've already become who they are. They say things like, "This is just the way I am," as if their current personality, habits, or limitations are permanent fixtures. But that's a lie we tell ourselves to avoid the fear of change. The truth is that you are never complete. You are always in the process of construction or destruction, depending on whether you choose to aim higher or settle for less. Your brain reflects this too. It's constantly rewiring, responding to how you think, act, and feel. If you feed it challenge, discipline, and truth, it grows in complexity and strength. If you feed it passivity, avoidance, and lies, it weakens. The most terrifying and liberating fact about your life is that you are responsible for who you become. You can't control everything: your past, your upbringing, or the randomness of life, but you can control how you respond to those things. You can direct your attention, your effort, and your values towards something meaningful. That process is ongoing and never truly ends. You are not static. You are potential in motion, and when you take that seriously, when you decide to become the person you could be, your brain, your character, and your entire life will change in ways you never imagined. Rules to transform your life in 2025. Inspired by Jordan Peterson, 100 words: stand up straight and face the chaos. It's where your strength is born. Speak the truth, even if your voice shakes. In 2025, don't aim to be safe, aim to be useful. Clean your room, take responsibility, and fix what you know you're avoiding. You're not a victim, you're a becoming. Discipline is the path to freedom. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not who someone else is today. Voluntarily shoulder the heaviest load you can bear. Meaning isn't found, it's built. If you live like that, day by day, your life will transform.